It's a bit of a slow starter.
This is the music. There's no good music in this.
No, there isn't.
Jenny, it was a rough one. I was almost gonna just throw back something else that
I'm angry
from another movie or something. I don't know. Booty time. Across the USA.
Booty time. Across the USA. Yeah, this is not the fun 80s pop song that we're used to in these nightmare movies.
Certainly it's not, my friend.
But I guess this is the serious Freddy. Anyway, welcome to PCP Deep Dive, Pop Culture Pro's home for everything obsessive watching and deep diving. We are here at the tail end of our Nightmare on Elm Street deep dive, where we were heading through the nightmares and dreamscapes of everything Freddy Krueger, franchise-wise. Hell, we even went back to the shows. We looked at music videos. And
Did we lose Jason?
The TV shows.
The TV shows, Freddy's Nightmares.
Music videos.
That's right.
Merchandise?
Merchandise for sure.
Merchandise, Freddy's Nightmares. We did it all. I think I even played a commercial of Freddy Krueger's like 1-900 numbers at some point. Like that's how deep dive we went.
Yeah, that was great.
And commercialization knows no end.
Nah, there's no end. It's a Freddy movie, Freddy franchise. But that brings us here to the end. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, the questionable remake, starring Jackie O'Haley, Jackie O'Haley, right? With me as always, my man in the chair, my it was a heterosexual life partner, pop culture wise. Ed Camus. Ed, how are you?
What's up, man? What's going on? Excited to be here. Excited to discuss our final. It's a little bit of it's bittersweet. I'm glad we did this and stuff, but like we got this to talk about. There's a lot of interesting conversation around this film. Put it that way, whether you liked it or not. I think it does. It's going to be fun to talk about.
Absolutely. And as always, my partner in crime, the final girl of this podcast, Ginny. How are you tonight, Ginny?
Good. I'm excited to talk to you two about this movie, and I want to reflect. I just want to reflect tonight. And I'm wearing this is my merchandise shirt. This is my Springwood high school shirt. It's like a workout shirt. That's that's one of my merches.
I got 3. I got during this, it inspired me to buy the Elm Street 3.
I need more.
Shirt. Yeah.
I have a Freddy doll. I have a Freddy hat. I have like Halloween gun decorations that I was like, I have a claw, I have a hat. I didn't bring those out. Should have.
I have Freddy socks. That was just inspired to buy for this podcast.
I want Freddy.
Yes, that's awesome.
My sister has a mug. I want a mug. I want a Freddy mug.
Well, I have a knit hat.
Oh, that's
that
nice.
Is just too hot in here to ever wear. So that's why I can't wear it in here during the show. Otherwise
I like that. That would make me paranoid. I would love to do that to people. If more people were just wearing the red and the green, it's not Christmassy. It's those colors. That would make me like, I'm dreaming. Freddy's out to get me. Especially if I was like 15, I'd be like.
Well, it's cool because it's got like the little rips in it too. It's not like a perfectly made thing. Like it's by design, on which is pretty awesome.
You swap it out with black beanie, and then just like someone's not talking, you put the
yeah, exactly.
Type one on.
And just like, don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Right.
Listen, Andy should be happy I've not done some of these things that I have.
It's a good prank. That's a harmless prank. No one's gonna have a heart attack from that. It's fine.
She might.
No, Angie really terrified.
Really
right?
thrilling with Freddy Krueger. Yeah, it's unhealthy.
So, all right. So I'm really excited to get into talking about this movie with you guys. I'll give a brief synopsis of the movie, but anyone who's seen the first one has seen this one, right? This is, I wouldn't say a shot for shot, but it's a beat for beat remake of the movie. the first one. Like,
yeah, this is it's like this and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in 2003 are like same beats, kind of the same characters. But that's more faithful than this is in a way. Like this takes liberties or has homages, whereas that Friday the 13th, there was that whole like weird, sleek, music video-esque reboots of like 2003 to I don't know what, like I watched what I watched. I watched like Last House on the Left, that remake. I hadn't seen that. And I saw that this Halloween, which I liked, but that was sleek and like changed things, not fixed things, but made it like more, I don't know, less brutal or just like, I don't know. It's just very more modern, less grindhousey. And so that's kind of an interesting like period. I think I've seen all of them. The Crazies, I watched that. That was like the reboot of that. George Romero's like Dawn of the Dead was rebooted. Can't think of anything else.
That was Dawn of the Dead reboot. That was Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
written by James Gunn.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's actually that's a remake that elevates like the original in my opinion.
I need to watch that again.
Yes, I will stand by the fact that Dawn of the Dead remake is better than the original.
I love that original though too, but I was like that.
No, so do I, and I agree with you on the grindhousey stuff because that's why Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like I like the reboot, I do, and I know that it felt like there was like 50 of them right shortly after that, but like the first one with like Jessica Biel, I like that one. But yes, when you watch the original, it seems like it was made on a shoestring, and it seems like it actually was found footage. That's why I think that one's creepier.
It gives you a headache. Like I'll never forget watching that remake. We're not here to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I kind of can't watch that first one again because to my husband said it the best. One time I made him watch it, and he goes, "I have a headache now," because it is just like loud and like it's bright daylight and people are just screaming, and it's not bad. It's scary, but that remake is scary. Like I saw that trailer in theaters, and I was like, I'm having nightmares now, like because it's just like it was so too sharp and too like. In a good way, it was very like awesome, but and then Friday the 13th, and then you had the lame ones like When a Stranger Calls and Black Christmas, which I love.
The first remake, the second remake.
Other remake of Black Christmas. I love Black Christmas, the Black original, and then I like the second remake. And that's it.
Yeah. So Jason, actually, did you clock that who was a producer on this film as well as the Friday the 13th remake as well as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake?
No, I didn't. Who was it?
My personal good friend and a friend to Granny's Peach Tea, Michael Bay.
Oh no! Wow,
that's weird.
But yes, his Platinum Dunes. There was a time they started. I remember when they started doing these things, and that's why, like, I guess going into this, as much as Jason, you've heard me criticize Michael Bay to like nauseum, right? And
of course,
I admit he's a very nice guy actually, but but the thing is, I will state that before I start going into this crap again. But the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake was the first one out of the gate, and I remember seeing him as a producer, and I'm like, that's weird. But okay, let's see what they got. And I really liked it. And the Friday the 13th remake, the 2009 one, which came out a year prior to this, I loved it. And that's why when this was announced, I was excited because I'm like, maybe this is actually in good hands, right? And when I saw Jackie Earle Haley was announced to be picking up the mantle of Freddy Krueger, I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice. That's Rorschach from Watchmen. And I'm like, oh.
Which had just come out in 2009, and we're all.
And I'm like, all right, these things were lining up where I was like, this could be good. And then I saw the film in the theater. And not so much.
I'll never forget when I saw the trailer. We were all hyped up. I'm sure we were all seeing movies at the time, and we like saw that trailer. The trailer's out. Like, I'd watch online and then also go to theaters. And I read scripts because scripts were out. They were leaked, or like, here's a character casting breakdown. Like, I didn't know who Rooney Mara was, but I knew who Katie Cassidy was, the blonde girl in this, because I was a CW kid. I love all the Spitteen shows, and like Kyle Gallner and Decker, Andrew Decker, Jesse in this movie, they were like my age teen actors, and but then when I remember scenes were cut, like we're seeing openings, or like this wasn't in the movie, or like, well, why'd you cut this? And it's like weird, like now you kind of realize these are dumb, weird Hollywood edits. I don't get it, but we were super hyped when we saw the trailer, and he was the guy. It opens with guy from Twilight. He's in the diner, and we're like, a diner. It's like part 4. Yes, like we're so excited, and that's like very Nightmare on Elm Street. And then like Rooney Mara works at the diner, kind of like Alice. Things were like,
yeah,
we were like forcing ourselves to be so excited, and we were like to really be like, oh, look at the justice they're doing.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where. So I thought Thomas Decker. I was looking
Thomas
up.
Decker. He was in the Terminator show, which I like.
He was, right? And I was looking for one. He was John. Yes, there it is. There's the different posters. Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles.
That's a good. He's a good.
He was John Connor, and I actually liked that show. I thought that show was actually pretty like highly underrated. It was
I
pretty
like
cool.
Show, yeah.
But yeah, and it is funny that you mentioned the CW stuff, right? Because I kind of got that vibe from these 3 remakes.
Yeah.
That I had mentioned, Texas Chainsaw Friday, and this, as kind of having that like Jessica Biel was an alumni of like CW, right? Like
WB,
WB at that time, and then Katie Cassidy, who she was on Arrow.
She was on Arrow.
She was Laura Lyons. on Arrow.
She was.
Yeah,
that's right.
This was prior. Yeah,
that's my favorite thing when my husband will watch something that I think is a teen show or something girly, and he goes, "Oh, they were on they were on The Flash. They were on Arrow," and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Oh yeah, they went all for that. It was like they were going for all people from Glee, like Supergirl and Grant Gustin and all of that. So
it's interesting. Teen dramas, the 90210 remakes into a superhero show on CW.
Yeah, but so I kind of felt like this movie. I remember seeing the trailer, and I also was kind of like, all right, I see what they're going for. They're trying to bring it back to the beginning, right? Like they're trying to bring it back to the OG Freddy, when people, like we've discussed in our rewatch, that he turned into a cartoon character as that the original series went along. And I think we agreed it happened a little bit later than we recall it being. We kind of all thought it was a couple of films earlier, but like Freddy's Dead is where he truly went completely, full Bugs Bunny in that. And 4 was when some people would criticize it because that was called the like MTV Nightmare on Elm Street. But I know Ginny and I especially, like, we really like 4. And they were trying to get away from that, though. Like they were trying to push that Freddy away. They kind of wanted, Freddy should be serious. Freddy should not have really much of a personality. A couple of quips here and there, but not like, a jokester really per se. Like he's not having. We're not having fun with him. He might be having some fun, but not like we're not having fun with him.
What I think it is? I think the direction was, play Freddy as a real serial killer. And the thing is, Freddy does, even in the first one, which is a scary movie, Freddy's still, he's a serial killer, but he's still fun. He's got this charm, like this charisma, like you said, Ginny. And he's a serial killer, but he also is this heightened dream creature. And I think in this, they were like, all right, you know what? We're just going to have him be a grounded serial killer with these powers and kind of really cap a lot of this heightened dream stuff, like in his personality. I mean, he still does weird dream stuff, but I think that's what it is. They were really trying to ground it, and I think that was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where it's really interesting, though, because like you had mentioned before, this with remakes and with remakes specifically, it is tricky, right? Like you want to. There's always a portion of the fan base who's screaming that they wanted to say uber faithful to the original. They want like a shot for shot remake, essentially. Basically, they don't want the movie. They want the original movie, and they don't really want you to make a new movie. But then you hire a director, you hire writers, and I think as artists, they want to take their own liberties with it. Like, why am I bothering doing this? What job am I doing? It's the movie's there. Just watch the original movie.
It's a hot take for me thinking about like that Until Dawn trailer that came out. You played Until Dawn? And then they made a movie, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I don't recognize any of these actors. Like, oh, I guess. And the names were different. And everyone you find out, it was like they were just doing something totally different. And I don't hate it though, because I'm like, yeah, go. Okay, just whatever. Yeah. If I wanted to watch the movie, I'd play the game, I guess. Or if I wanted to watch the original, I'd like do it. It's so interesting because like that makes me more intrigued because it really does seem like weird. This is kind of like that, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it's too similar, or they're unlike the Friday the 13th reboot, which is taking elements and characters and tropes, but not even like names. It's like, and I don't care about I love the Friday the 13th series, but I am not like, this isn't a relic for me. I'm like personally attached to a lot of these characters in Elm Street. So it is, when I was at least 20, when this movie came out, I was like, this is really insulting to my history and my love for all these characters. Like, how dare you?
Yeah, it's like those people like, oh, Michael Bay's ruining my childhood. Like, so we had mentioned people were flipping out over the Transformers. I'm like, dude, if he's retroactively ruining your childhood, I think you gotta like reassess some things about your childhood, maybe.
Maybe your childhood
maybe it wasn't all as cracked up to be, right? Like, maybe
it's not even necessary. It's like Kristen. I was like, her name is just Chris, but she's kind of not quite like, we don't have the time. No one's taking the time to like build our characters because she's you know, we have our characters. We have a Nancy, we have a Tina, and she's Tina, but her name is Chris.
Christina.
And you have a
it's
Jesse.
So different. It's so different.
You have Jesse and Thomas Dekker, who was gay, which is great, but he wasn't. I mean, it wasn't out at the time. But he's playing Jesse, but he's like the Rod to Chris. Because he watches her die.
Yeah, that's a given.
Prison. It was so weird. That makes me upset, that plot, because I also loved. I didn't know, and now we all love Rooney Mara, but I would loved baby girl so much, our Kristen, Katie Cassidy, and then I knew she was gonna die. It's in the trailers, but I was like, but I like that she is the lead, like better than the first movie in that way. You have the blonde girl who is like, I'm haunted. I am like, you know. She is kind of our lead, and she has the first dream sequence, and then she's like, hey, I can't sleep, can my dick boyfriend stay over with me? She watches Dean, or not, the guy from Twilight, this jockey boy who's like, I can't sleep, I'm at the diner, and that's a rough death that he gets. You start with the diner, and he's just like, hey, why'd you call me here? And he's like, I'm really struggling. And again, I do like that I like in this movie, no one's friends. I feel like it's everyone has to, which is always, we don't have that anymore, where it's like, just rebuild. Like, I like that maybe you're a popular kid, or it's like the hierarchy. Then they have to kind of come together to be like, okay, you're not doing well either. Yeah, me either. Like, because it's affecting everybody. And so I think that's like, that, at least when I was in high school, I was like, it's community that builds community. I like when that happens. That's like part 4 too, where it's like the jock, you know, comes down to like some, you know, the dorkier kids. You've got your punk kids, kind of like that's what it was about, man. And this movie has that too, which I like. I do. I don't know. It's just it's way too slow for me. And then things, I don't know.
Well, I think you mentioned Friday the 13th is like, I think, and we all agree, right? The three of us enjoyed that remake. Yes or no?
I actually was going to say, I think, yes, for sure.
Okay.
And I think Friday the 13th deals with the nostalgia problem perfectly. because it goes, all right, you want nostalgia? Here's 15 minutes front loaded of every fucking highlights of every movie you've ever seen and liked. Okay, we're done. Now can we tell our story? And
greatest hits. Get some good greatest hits there
for
everybody. Yeah.
What I was gonna say is like Friday the 13th is like the greatest hits of that franchise. Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 is like a remix of the original film.
That's the way to
say it.
It's a better way to put it. It's more of like, hey,
remix.
Yeah, we're gonna shift things around a little bit. We'll make it look original. We're gonna give you your homages to the original and to the original series, because there is a list of them, and it's mostly the first one. The only one that, like, it's funny you mentioned like working at the diner and stuff is more kind of like Alice and stuff like that. I'll admit that's not.
I think they take a lot from 4. I think in a way.
Well, the only thing I got from 4 is when towards the end when Freddie says to Nancy, how's this for a wet dream? Which is like a direct line from what he says to Jesse.
Yeah. And they do it with other lines where I was like, I know exactly what this movie is from, because I love all of these movies. I can not cherry pick, but I can be like, you pulled it like from this line and this, and again, character names too. I'm like, Jesse, that's not a mistake. And
no, that's definitely not a mistake.
And Chris isn't a mistake. It's so
they could have done so much more with the Jesse thing because of how that whole story surrounding the second one was like well off so many years later. Come on, they could have did something with that and addressed.
You should have. You
could have had some fun with it.
It's a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah, but this movie was like, no, there is no fun to be had. You stop laughing. You stop smiling.
You know who would have had fun? The Friday the 13th remake would have had fun with that. I think we could
absolutely.
Because that movie is also just like poking tropes. It's like if people think it's the weed, if it's like the black guy gets killed first, they're playing with that. Yeah. This one we can't do that because we have to be. It's serious, and then they make it very serious. I know we take it to like.
This movie goes to levels of serious. Like this movie takes itself insanely seriously,
which is not bad. I guess they were tried.
Well, I think that raises the question though, Jenny. Like, me and you essentially grew up with this franchise, right? Like Jason got into it a little bit later. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just kind of like what I told Jason yesterday was weird because like watching this now, and I guess I was trying to really analyze why, as a franchise fan of this, again to the level both of us are, is what made us reject this instantly? Right? I assume you saw this and immediately rejected it.
Yeah.
Right? And so did I. And I had this vitriol hate for this movie for like 15 years. And then when I rewatched it the other night, I'm kind of like, something? I don't like this movie, but I don't really despise this movie. I'm not like offended by this movie because I guess I took more time to really understand what they were attempting to do a little bit more. I still don't like it. I'm not making excuses for the film, but it was just like I saw Freddy, and I'm like, the first, seeing Freddy in the original series is still like, and I told Jason this, it's kind of like a weird comfort food that you have where you're like, oh, I know this guy. He's funny. He's this, he's that. He calls people a bitch. Like we know all the things he's going to do, and it's okay, right? Even though, granted, those are horror films that are, and bad things are happening to them. But when I saw this guy, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I don't know him. Get away from me, you fucking pervert. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to wear a t-shirt with you on it. Get lost.
And there were some lines that I wish hadn't been in the trailer because I do really like the way he says it because we all love Rorschach. His voice is so, it's like kind of, it's rough. He's like sexy. It's like, but he's like, why you scream? I haven't even cut you yet. I still like that line, even though you'd heard in the trailer a billion times. I still like that as a quip. Because I feel like that's like dark. That's like a Wes Craven's New Nightmare Freddy. And that ending sequence, when they it's a twist on a twist. Then it's a dark world, and you have I'm a girl. So to me, I do like a boy and a girl as their final leads, which I don't think we've had. Yeah, I like part 4. Part 4 has that too, where you got a final boy and a final girl. I am a sucker for that.
3 has a group.
Yeah.
2 also has a boy and a boy.
2 has a boy and a girl too. Yes. And that is very metaphorical. I love that. It's very metaphorical. Very final, but the very final girl though too.
Yeah, you're right.
And I will love Kyle Gallner in anything. So now if you tell me this, who plays Quentin, he was in Smile 2. He's like hot fact, I was supposed to be in a movie with that guy when I was living in Pennsylvania because he's from PA. And there's an indie film and they were like, all right, you're cast in this movie. There's an actor. We can't tell you at the time. And I was like, okay. But I was like, would I have seen him in there? Like, what? No, it doesn't matter. Find out it's Kyle Gallner. We lost the money for the project. So I couldn't do it. I was like, it's fine. I don't have to go to the middle of PA. I was supposed to be in a movie with this guy like years after this movie came out. And I do like that. I don't know. I just like that it's very good hero. It's like if Johnny Depp was supposed to live and was a better boyfriend, I think.
Well, I mean, he's also tasked with like watching her, right? Like he's also tasked with,
and Johnny Depp messed up.
Yeah. Oh, he also messed up too. He fell asleep too.
Oh, he doesn't do. He's tired. He's on the swim team. Jason.
So we have a question here, by the way.
So I was going to say. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Quickly on YouTube. Thanks for checking us out.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna admit I agree with you. I actually remember disliking that, but when I watched it today, because I just watched this movie today, I actually kind of dug that. Like, I went, oh, wait a minute, are they trying to say that the villain is that Freddy's innocent? How do I feel about that? And then when the twist was he wasn't, and it was kind of like, no, it felt more like the kids were like dealing with, oh shit, did we say something that got this innocent guy killed? And I think that's very interesting. I agree with you.
I still think it is. I think people like will use that now against that, and I still think that was the most. Even I don't think I spoiled it for myself, but going to the theater, it was like well acted. I thought it's I think paced nicely in the script too. It comes at a time when it's like they've been attacked. They're haunted and they're yelling at their parents. Like, how could you do this to us? And like Nancy, it steps up the Nancy bit where she's like, why didn't you tell me this guy existed and that we were like, that you did this? And it's the mom's demons. And now this is like a demon for them. Now it's the kids. Like that is like sins of the father, of course, but also like the sins of the kids, especially. So.
Well, I think one of the things, I agree with you guys. I thought that was interesting. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I didn't buy it for 2 seconds, though, that there was going to be, like, Freddy's actually going to be innocent in this version. Like,
look at him.
No, I mean, I was like, oh, that's interesting. It better not be true, because I think I'm going to be pretty pissed if it is. And, you go along with it, whatever. And I guess for the characters in the movie, you're like, all right, that's an interesting kind of swerve for a minute. But the fact that he is going after his previous victims, right, and terrorizing them, because in the original series it's always, oh, you kids had nothing to do with this shit, but I'm gonna just fuck with you guys because I'm not gonna fuck with your parents. I'm gonna take the children away from the people who wronged me. But Jason, we were talking about this briefly yesterday. Like, this is different. It's actually in some ways darker. That he's going after previous victims that like were forced to forget about him again. Like we've seen like 3 or 4 movies in a row now. Yeah. Everyone wants to make Freddy be forgotten about, and then he gets dragged into the real world. And
he knows them. He knows them, not intimately, but like he does a little bit. But I was also like he has seen them. Yeah. These are his like children, especially. And they also forget. They don't know. They're all like, we were in the same preschool class together. And like, yeah.
And I'll say that I think that I do actually like that. Again, when we talked yesterday before I saw it, Ed, I didn't think, I was like, nah, I don't think that's kind of too dark. But on the rewatch, it worked for me because the fact that the kids didn't remember and his whole thing with, at least with Nancy, and I kind of wish he was doing this more with the kids throughout, but his whole thing is, the more I make you remember, the more power I draw from you. And that was super interesting. And that also kind of, gets into exploring trauma, right? Like the more you face your trauma, the harder it hits back. And he then kind of almost becomes this sort of allegory for trauma, but it's only in that moment. And I think I like that moment a lot. And I just kind of wish that they expanded on that. Like, because I think that if you're going after your former victims and your whole thing is, I'm going to make you remember and then I'm going to kill you, that's super interesting. But that only comes at the end.
Or haunt you or really mess with you until, but if it's Lee Winnell or like a Blumhouse movie and they chose to remake it like in this vein, I'm sure they'd handle this with like precision and it's pulp. It's still like, it's not pulp, but it's like, it's horror, but maybe not Michael Bay. The premise is there.
Yeah, I agree though that it's an interesting premise. Again, if you're gonna like, I think I still stand by. If you're gonna do a remake, you do need to change it, and you changed it to an extent, but you have to keep the heart of what people love about it. And I think that's where this movie, that's where it drops the ball, because I think while trying to do some new different things, and the three of us admit that it's interesting, some of the things they did were interesting, but just not executed very well, right? And and the thing is, like, the biggest thing that I think what fumbles this movie, and personally, I think the kids are virtually non-existent. Like, I think they're just like whatever. There's no personality to them like we got in the original series. Like, each one of them had these quirks, and I like karate. I'm scared of fucking bugs. Like, things like that. Like, we don't get anything here. It's just your kids. You're victims of mine.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
And the dream sequences, while being kind of interesting,
he's not using their fears against them.
Yeah,
he's using the 1984. He's just using everyone watched the 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street, and he was like, scene you didn't like.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think that's what it is, and I think that's where the movie. And it's funny though, because I think the movie suffers for that, and I think that's where it drops the ball. And Jenny, that's what I was talking about with you, is that people are like, again, Jason, I was mentioning, I know you had to step away for a second, that Jenny and I had essentially grown up with this franchise, and we have a slightly different, I guess, relationship with it. But even though we've done this all together now as adults, this was rejected by us, I think, almost instantaneously, because it wasn't what we knew Freddy as. Ultimately. And originally, yes, but ultimately, Freddy became Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4 Freddy is kind of what I think the public concept or the idea of Freddy Krueger is. And this is not that at all. And it's why people are like, no, thank you. I don't know who this person is. This is not fun. Go away. But yet back at the time, it was getting banged on for it. And it's just interesting how years later, they tried to give you what they thought you wanted. And you were like, no, actually, I kind of think I wanted it in the end. Yeah. I wanted what I was supposedly rejecting. That was my take on this.
And we're not, I mean, if we could have like,
I agree.
If you could have waited like 10 more years.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, like just like more interesting dream sequences. Because also in 84, the idea that like you're in an alleyway, you're going outside your house. But imagine there's like the whole thing about back rooms now, and like your dreams really don't make sense. And then the arms, why are the arms long? It doesn't matter. That would be in a dream. It's so weird. Or like falling into a pool, and then you're in like, that happens with Quentin a little bit, which I do. I think that's a great dream sequence for me. Where he's diving, and then he just gets like woken up, and he's just kind of in like he's witnessing the attack, but maybe more surreal. Like and I think New Nightmare kind of plugs into that a little bit more, and certainly like Freddy's Dead really does like a weird like cut. Like I picture him in The Wizard of Oz in a way, like, oh no, it's Looney Tunes flying out of an airplane, and someone's like, shut the hell up, and you're like, and you just cut to somewhere else. That's a dream to me. That's my dream sometimes. So it's like they don't, a little subconscious, but sometimes they just don't make sense. And in this one, it's all very like dark and gritty. But maybe that's what Freddy wants in this one.
But is it what the audience wants?
Is it what Michael Bay wants?
Oh, my favorite Michael Bay got what he wants. Let's just say we would have got way more explosions going on here. We would have gotten like some more potty humor. We would have
more
gotten
Victoria's Secret models.
Exactly.
Not a nary Victoria's Secret model in this movie. I'm very upset.
Yeah, you know, exactly. Things would have looked a little bit differently if Michael Bay was really involved.
Really involved. You're true. That's true. That's true.
Not just writing a check.
You are.
Jason, go ahead. Have you been shopping at the bit over there, or sometimes?
I think I think the biggest. That's okay. You know, it's my own fault. I have shitty internet, so like there's a lag, and you guys start your conversation, and then I come in, and then I have to stop. But anyway, I think the issue with this movie for me is I'm gonna say I have a hot take here. This is not a bad movie. This is a bad Freddy movie. I think if this isn't Freddy, but some other supernatural killer that molested kids and then comes back to haunt them and make them remember to kill them in their dreams, I think we're having a different conversation for the same movie. Yeah, there are things they do that maybe doesn't work 100%, but I also think some of the things they do that don't work is in service to try to give the fans what they think they want. I also think another thing is they really misunderstood what people liked about these movies. And like, people like the creativity and the charm and the charisma and the kills. Like, the fact that we're missing dream kills is a big thing in this movie. Like, that first death we see, that's a horrific death, but like, he just kills himself.
What are you seeing?
Like, there's nothing fantastical about the kills. And even in the first one, which is very serious and almost no humor, the kills are fantastical.
We cut in between when you don't see in the first movie. You do cut. We cut. So which is jarring. So it's like, oh God, she's dreaming. And then you have which is a great, I mean, you need a partner in that. So somebody needs to be, mother walks into her room, sees the son, like sees Johnny Depp in his bed, boyfriend in bed with you post-coital. Like, it has a reason. It has like, that is like, oh my gosh, I'm vulnerable. I don't know what's going on. Terrifying. And same in this movie too. But that first kill, I guess it's supposed to be mysterious. Just that, like, we all know what's going on. But like,
well, we know what's going on. But what we see in this movie, we see a lot of, because remember we talked about through the other movies, like when the fantastical kills happen, we always were questioning, well, at least I know I was questioning at times, what happened in reality? Like, I was just kind of curious to know, how did this play out in reality? We only get to see that for some kills, and other kills, we just see the fantastical. This movie just gives us the actual deaths happen in reality. Right?
Yeah.
Like you said, the first dude slashes his own throat, but it's really Freddy in the dream sequence. Freddy's doing that.
So Jesse in prison, because the first one makes sense. Yes. We don't see that death one either, though. Not Jesse. We see Rod in the first movie has unalives himself.
The sheet
sheet around his neck, but we don't know what the dream is.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I think this one was trying to really take all its notes from the original,
make it interesting.
But yeah, that's the thing. I just don't think they make it particularly interesting.
See
what I'm saying? I think they took the homework assignment of, remember the original whenever it was super scary and people were scared of it? That's what they want. Give them that. Right? Give them an updated version of that.
And meanwhile, we can't do a Freddy snake. We can't do a Freddy snake anymore. We can't do no.
There's no
transform.
Yeah, but that's the thing. But those were happened in sequels.
But not right. He doesn't extend his arms or anything. No stretching. No,
it tones it down even further than in the first one. Right? In the first one, he has the stretching of the arms and he's like running down the alleyway, and he does the stupid thing where he's
off.
The goofy face off.
He's manipulating, I guess, everything around him. I just don't care for that. I want a little bit more.
He's not cutting his fingers off and there's like green blood splitting out.
I want something a little more like surreal. And he's manipulating everything around him, I guess. I just go like, sometimes I miss the split from, that's not why I really don't like this movie. I miss when you don't know if it's a dream or reality. I
Yes.
like that. I want it to be and that I feel like New Nightmare does that really well. I think Freddy versus Jason does that really well. I just need to see like a little bit, even if you're dozing, even if you're like, oh, I'm just so sleepy. And then you're like, oh my God, no, I'm good. Okay, I have to go. And then, but even part 2 does that really well, where you're like, hey, bus driver, can we stop? And then it gets worse. I don't know if this movie does that. It doesn't even want to do that.
Well, I think that's where, and I was going to actually give this movie, one of the things I do, and it's a concept about this movie that I like, and I'm curious to know what you guys think, is the micro nap concept is very interesting, because as many times as I've joked, and I know throughout our run here, I have made jokes about when did this person fall asleep? When does Debbie fall asleep when she's working out to have the whole car? Like, when did that happen? She wasn't there lifting, and all of a sudden,
she's sleeping.
Like, that never happened, right? And it's funny because Quentin is he does a micro nap thing when he's in the middle of a swimming.
Nothing wakes me up more than like a dive into water. I swear to God.
Yes, so he fell asleep. You're trying to tell me he dozed off while he was sleeping? I mean, while he was swimming in the water.
Great point.
I kind of had to tell. I know that's the thing. So the micro nap concept is interesting because it was basically to explain to you, hey, this person can be awake, but Freddy can pop up at any moment. That's what that was.
This is when I want to talk about, but
not while you're swimming.
Could you zone out? Like, what about zoning? Maybe you all done that thing where you just stare off in the universe, like you stare off into space and go, "Where am I? Who am I again?" For a spit.
Sure, but not in the middle. I'm sorry, I have not done competitive swimming, but I like to swim a lot. I have never fallen asleep or dozed off while I was swimming. I kind of feel like I'm not buying that one.
I do. A micro nap is totally true. Where me and my husband were like, "Did you nap?" I was like, "I think I did," because I don't remember. We'd podcasted and we don't remember any of the podcasts, so we definitely like fell asleep. Or you dreamt for like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
diving in water is so stupid now. Okay, yeah, right, that's good.
That's where they lose me. Which, you know what, it's really done well though, the scene in the pharmacy.
Oh,
scene in the pharmacy is probably, I think, the coolest scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
When he's like, blip, like when you can tell, like maybe fighting asleep. It's flashing. That, I think, that's where the concept of the micro nap, I like the concept of the micro nap, and that's where it's done well. And then when it's done poorly is the water.
Remember whenever you've been sleep deprived, and I've gotten that lately.
Yeah.
I'm like, again, not even, I don't like trying to do coffee anymore, but it's like, when do I need a nap? Kind of like later in the day. And like, or when I'm dozing, I'm just like, I gotta keep it together. And it's like, but could you imagine if that's even more terrifying for like Freddy's there. It's like a new mom horror movie with like Freddy Krueger's haunting you. That's the better dream child movie where it's like, I just gave birth to a child and I'm falling asleep and Freddy's there. And it's like, you don't know.
Yeah. So that's why I stand by. Like this movie has interesting concepts. It's just the execution isn't there.
That's yeah.
And wait, but hold on, Jenny, you're trying to tell me that you haven't been sleep deprived and started drinking Diet Coke randomly, or took a cigarette to yourself, or taking no-dos, or whatever the fuck is going on.
I did do. I will say this. I will say, because we were such dorks, and then like at my friend's house, we had the instant coffee. Like in part 3, where it's like the worst coffee you could possibly do is like the instant powdered, like the crystals essentially, and you'd mix it in hot water, coffee. And so what does Patricia Arquette do in 3? She doesn't want to sleep anymore, so she's like,
put it in Diet Coke or something.
She does. No, she's like a shot. She does the coffee and then does a shot of Diet Coke, or just regular Coke, and we all did that like we were 14 years old. It was great.
Oh my God,
great time. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't a cool kid.
No, of course, and we've all done dumb shit where we see.
Well, I was like, guys, who wants to watch Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and just do like the coffee crystals?
You almost just feel like you had to have like Diet Coke available to just feel like you're
I was absolutely just but what are they? We're drinking coffee. Do you like Rooney Mara? Does anyone like Rooney Mara in this movie?
I think Rooney Mara is. I gotta be honest. I don't think I wanted to look her up because I don't think I've seen a lot. I saw a girl with the dragon tattoo,
but you haven't seen anything else. That's fine.
And let's see. No, I'm just kind of curious briefly to see this girl with the dragon tattoo. Yada yada yada.
Married to Joaquin Phoenix. I feel like right now.
Oh, Social Network. I
So
did see
yeah,
her.
which was like this after this movie, and then she gets bit, and then she just
Same year, actually.
is the same year.
Same year as Social Network.
I feel like I've been
remember that.
seeing a lot of that lately, and I go,
But I think my issue with Nancy in this movie is that she's super bland. I don't think she has much of a personality whatsoever. All right, cool. She puts her headphones on and she's doing art in one scene, and that's Freddy's favorite, and they keep mentioning that. Okay, but she doesn't really have a personality, and I think that's kind of my issue with a lot of this entire movie. Even Freddy himself, the kids, the movie itself. It just seems like in some ways it's kind of sterile.
yeah, sterile is a great word.
There's no personality to anything, and that's
what is the most personality, do you think, and why is it Quentin? And why is it Quentin?
I'm not going to argue with you. It's probably Quentin, even though
or Kruger from Highlander.
Oh well, listen,
Clancy Brown.
Jason and I have a very soft spot for Clancy Brown because on Granny's Peach Tea, Clancy Brown isn't like in
everything.
So much shit that we cover. He was just in Penguin.
Penguin.
Yes, he was friggin' Carmen. Salvador Maroni.
Oh yeah. It's so good.
He was in The Flash. He's all over the place. He probably has the most personality in this entire film, and maybe Quentin is. No, not even.
I do love that scene where he just attacks his dad because I just felt like that was not too good acting. It was just like. Oh, it was such good act. I always like that where he's like, we lied. Did you like even do research? Like maybe we were kids. Like what do we know? Mm-hmm. He's like shaming the children, which is probably not a good thing. But Quentin is like attacking his father to be like, you burned this guy. I don't. Maybe it was probably wrong to take that speech away from Nancy. Nancy's attacking her mother and confronting her mother and be like, what did you do? Like, oh my gosh. And or Kristen being like, you and this guy torched, your country club kids. Yeah. I like that Quentin does it because I don't know. It was like he's like doing the research. But I just also love Kyle Gallner. So
speaking of the research he does, I also had a weird question. The video he sees from it's like Marcus Yen or something like that. Like,
yeah.
So you're trying to tell me that this is the case, right? Like this dude goes online, finds a video of a kid murdering himself online, and this video remains accessible.
No, we don't know he murdered himself.
He puts his head into the screen at the end of that video.
And then you know what happened in today's day and age? It'd be like and subscribe, more follow.
Yes, exactly.
Social media manager would be like, Marcus Yen did not hurt himself. It's fine.
Yeah, it was just like Jason, we were just talking about Quentin's research. He's doing his own research. Everyone does their own research. Oh, yes.
Is that guy also?
Yeah. Where did that video come from? Like
it stayed online.
He does really. If he did, that is a snuff video. And then take it off.
Yes.
Unless his social media manager was like, he's doing it for the likes, which is more of a current generation thing, I think. But we just said do you like Nancy, Jason?
I do actually.
You do. Okay.
I did like this Nancy. I thought. I mean, whatever. They don't really have much of a personality, as Ed said.
She's an artist. She's
and
an
maybe
artist.
It's the fact that it's. Yeah, she's an artist. I like Rooney Mara. I mean, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. I none of the kids really stand out to me, except for Quentin. Quentin kind of is the only standout to me.
Does everyone just love Quentin?
I never said I loved Quentin.
And why not?
You bullied me into liking Quentin.
He is the biggest personality, I feel. I mean, like him or hate him, he has the most character. Like he's the one who's like, no, I take this ADHD medicine. He's the one who kind of knows how to research online and Google shit, or I don't know what was their search engine, like takeoff or whatever it was.
Oh God!
Shit. I was trying to write it down and I didn't.
Everyone's wearing beanies and sweet beanies. Him and Rooney Mara, and I was just like, "Yeah, guys, I feel that." I was just always wearing beanies in my college.
This is the fucking hot topic. Nightmare
It's the hipster. It's the hipster. Everyone's drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon. We're all drinking. We're smoking Camels.
Yeah, they're all taking the L train to fucking warmer and stuff. Like that's what's happening.
My favorite line? I will say, Rooney Mara. I don't know
Bushwick.
why. I love nothing could compare to her line delivery in this movie. That it's always like a hits to me is like they're like you don't like want to, what did they say about something like you've seen, like she's like at the funeral, the first funeral, and they walk away and he's like, I just want you know, she's like, you don't like, she's like, I didn't see anything. You didn't see anything. Don't worry. Don't like, you don't need to like, we don't need to hear about what you've seen. And Rooney Mara just kind of gets left alone. And she's like, you have no idea what I've seen. I was like, that's an Academy Award nominee right there. Cause she's like such like venom when she says that line, where she's just like, you have no idea what I've seen. Like she's like, spits it out. And I was like, and then she gets like kind of soggy the rest of the movie. But I was like, I love that line delivery. It's a great line delivery.
I will say though that Rooney Mara's ability to act as Nancy was, and I'm not kidding, was kind of detracting, because part of the charm for me for the original Nancy in the first one, because we all talked about how she got better in the third one.
Yes.
But in the first one, she is not. Yeah, but in the first one, I think this is like that was her first gig or whatever. She wasn't very good, but that was part of the charm because it added to her authenticity.
It's an after school special. It's like the health class. They show you an after school special 80s movie. I love that acting.
I missed her mother was too good of an actress, even though she's in this movie for like 2 fucking scenes.
Oh yeah.
Because I also yeah, you want to know something, man? I needed the original actress. That is part of my enjoyment of how awful her mother is in the first movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Locked.
And that's
Locks. Oh, mother! A whole bottle of vodka out of it.
And that's a big change in this movie that I want to talk about. Like, the parents aren't scumbags. Like, when Connie Britton has the moment with Nancy of, you know, why did you lie to me? Her whole thing is, and she's genuine in this moment. I didn't want you to relive that. That was awful. You forgot. I wanted you to forget. Whereas in the previous movies, it's like they're all kind of abusive as a result of their internalized trauma of killing a man. But here, like, there is none of that. She's like, Connie Britton's a good guy in this. And it's weird for me to see good guy parents in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I
have a crazy question for you. Or are they good? Or is it this weird, like, suck it up, don't talk about it, like, weird thinking where you kind of have to hold your feelings together? We want you to repress that, which is even more not abusive, but it's like where no one's going to therapy. I can't assume any of these kids are going to therapy.
No, they're not. But they were.
Did John Saxon do it? Do you think, was he a part of it? Yes or no?
What do you mean in the
original?
In the original, yeah, John Saxon won the fucking match.
He did it.
Yeah,
he did. They say that.
I don't know if John Saxon necessarily
did the lighting that, like, involved.
No, it doesn't. And plus, also, we don't have John Saxon in this film. Nancy's father isn't even existent. No, we like Clancy Brown could have been the John Saxon of this film, and maybe
could have been Kyle. Yeah. Who's the guy from? Who's the husband from Friday Night Lights? Could have been. Oh
yeah, he's gonna be in Green Lantern.
Green Lantern, one of our new Green Lanterns.
Yeah,
he could have been. He's gonna be a good John Saxon replacement.
But Nancy's father is non-existent in this film. So, and I'm not saying why. Again, this is also me not asking for the original film all over again. But I think there was the gravitas of a John Saxon that we were missing. But I mean, Clancy Brown, Jason, we admitted Clancy Brown was the character with the most personality this entire film.
Oh yeah, he's fucking Clancy Brown. That's why.
He's like, I'm just gonna come in here and crash, and they're like, it's a few pages, I promise. And he's like, no, Oscar-worthy performance.
No, I'm fucking bringing it. If this motherfucker who's Freddy isn't bringing it, I'm bringing it. That's it.
That's right.
And he drops the mic as he walks away.
You want me to be nice and subtle and real, or just like Pet Sematary 2? Not Pet Sematary 2? Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right, I'm giving you Highlander.
Yes.
And go.
Yeah. So I just, but the thing is, like, we're talking about a lot of like throwback stuff. I guess we wanted for the original, and they give us a lot of throwback stuff, and I do wonder if it's like, did you guys like the callbacks, or was it just a reminder that this movie is not that movie? Like, we get the Freddy coming through the wall at Nancy, right? That was obviously a callback there.
I don't like the CGI.
No, but like,
I don't like any of the CGI in this movie. Talk about CGI. Spawn. You talk about Spawn CGI?
Well, not like this. No, not
it kind of looked better in the original Nightmare. Like,
because it was probably practical in the original.
It was all it was like goo.
But that's my point. It was practical effects, and back in the day, filmmakers had fucking vision, and they used practical effects. And now you kids with your C's and your G's and your I's.
Practical effects can go wrong. Practical effects can go wrong. Let me present to you Aliens versus Predator Requiem. When you have the Predators, obviously dudes in rubber suits that are running around in dark lit areas, so you can't see that they're dudes in rubber suits.
That sounds okay.
Oh, it certainly is.
They're there. I just want to know that someone's there.
I'm sure we saw the zipper on the back of the suit at one point. We're just like, all right, dude, stop. I'm gonna kill the Predator by unzipping this.
I don't go to a haunted house to see CGI creatures. I want to go for a person.
No, but like we get the Tina murder, obviously, with Rod and stuff like that. That whole little thing is callbacks. We get the hand out of the bathtub, which leads to something complete. She doesn't get really pulled down at all, in the original, which is kind of weird. That she steps out to like snowflake, like the snow hallway thingamajig is stupid.
They're embellishing. They're embellishing on certain things where you could either like do a cute throwback, like a line, or in the prison, like if Jesse's in prison, that's fine, I guess. But
yeah, we get the body bag. We get her.
Like a body bag is cool.
Yeah, we get.
I will say though, in that dream though, I think the most interesting thing is when she says, "I set an alarm," and he went, "In your dream," and I thought that was super interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, because it really blurs the line of when did she fall asleep and when did she wake up? Like, so that's the thing, is this movie is not incompetent.
No.
It was like micronap theory again.
That was really cool. I love the micronap theory.
I sometimes I'm like, well, I always have an alarm set for like, I want to take a little baby nap for like 15 minutes. And if my alarm doesn't go off, or you realize you're kind of dreaming because you're like, someone's talking to you in the dream, but oh no, it's my alarm. Okay, cool. Which is very scary.
Yeah.
If only could play with that now.
But Ed, in answer to your question, I think these nods hurt the movie in a big way. Because I think part of why it hurts the movie is I've seen the first one. Therefore, there's no tension. I know how this is going to play out. And you give me that scene in the classroom, right? Which done way better in the first one, because it's this whole like cat and mouse thing. It's not just and now I'm Freddy. You give me that, and then expect me to take your new tone and your new twist seriously. It's like, no, this isn't tense. I know she doesn't die here because she's clearly going to be the one you fucking string up on the ceiling, which they do. And that's the thing is, when you go beat for beat, you know it when you rewatch Nightmare on Elm Street, but you didn't the first time you saw it. The first time you see this movie, you know exactly what's happening.
You know a callback I didn't recall whatsoever was the ending. When the mother gets pulled through the mirror.
Oh, I remember.
That was the worst.
It was the worst. It was the worst
callback.
Yeah,
because I think one of the worst in the series, if this counts in the series, which I kind of don't sometimes.
It's in the franchise, but not in the series. Yeah. If that makes, that's what I look at it as. It's in the franchise, but not in the series.
But the thing about that first ending is, and we discussed this, it didn't really work the way they did it, and it's goofy, and the intention was interesting, and at least the goofiness was offset by the creepiness of the tone they set after the 1, 2. But this is goofy and nonsensical and sets nothing up and is offset by nothing.
Well, I think they were trying to set something up, and they thought they were getting a sequel, so they were like, "Let's go." And no, they certainly did not.
I also go. Sometimes gore isn't scary to me. Like, not scary. I want surrealism. I do want surrealism in a dream. I want a body pulled through a wall. It's kind of a dummy. And I'm my fragile, even if I'm like now, I'm still like, so dumb. Go to sleep. Still get like chills because that's a weird. Yeah. That's not a body. Shouldn't do that. That shouldn't be real. And this one, it's just like gore, knives, face. Like, okay, great, and CGI. Okay, fine. But I was like, I want more surrealism. I want practical. I don't. But
I don't think doing the same type of thing you did at the end of the original would. I think it would take people out of the movie. Yeah, that would be. I don't mind the fact that they went for it. To be honest with you, I think it obviously looks better than it did in the original, because the original you can obviously see that was weird and goofy and stuff. They were getting a point across. Listen, she was still sleeping, right? Freddy's not dead and stuff.
Never gonna remember it.
Yeah, even because of course though, by the end credits, Freddy has to be back. No matter what, because we've seen that a bunch of times. So,
I like the end. I don't think I hate the ending with, again, at the preschool, which again, this is all dark and awful. I didn't hate that confrontation. And that she had to get in there. That's me. It's so bad, but I like.
And I'll point out a good piece of filmmaking here. When she's wrestling with him in her dream, and Quentin's on the outside, and he has to wake her up, and Freddy's about to impale her, and Tarantino. That's why his name Quentin. I just got it.
His last name is something.
Takes the adrenaline and shoves it in her fucking chest like Uma Thurman.
Oh my gosh, he does.
Yeah. But I think that is really well done and well edited, like the side by side, and then he gets there first, and Freddy kind of gets pulled out with her. I think filmmaking wise, that was really done well.
If we could have just given, I think, because Freddy vs. Jason is not the best movie, it's not the greatest movie. If you could have added more elements of this movie into that movie, if we knew then what we knew, what we know now, we knew then. That makes it less goofy, but that pulling people out of dreams, I think, or the seriousness. That movie's so goofy, though. Because it is scary. It's tensionful, and it's just it's dark. It's more than Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but it isn't Freddy vs. Jason has really weird, awful tones to it. But I'm this movie kind of does too. They just don't I don't know, or take these elements and put them in our other movies. Put in a lot of this in Freddy vs. Jason in a way. Would love to see that. And I would love to see that Robert Englund in this sort of universe.
See, I don't know. We have a question to get to. I'll drop it in a second because it's kind of what we're talking about here. I'm going to push back on that thing because I think Freddy vs. Jason, that the tone of that movie is what it needed to be. Jason had said, that movie is fan service to movie. And it's fan service to movie done well. That's perfect. Exactly how you do it. And I think it couldn't have been, if it was too serious, it would have kind of ruined it, I think, in a way. It wasn't, that movie had to be fun. It had to be not scary necessarily. You kind of had to self-aware. You couldn't take yourself too seriously. Yeah, we're killing it. We're banging on this movie for taking itself a little bit too seriously. And we have our comment here, Slasher Fred, actually pretty cool name, my friend. Awesome. Freddy Krueger in this movie is what Wes Craven had wanted it to be an original movie because he originally designed Freddy to be this pedophile, but had to change it. Yeah, if you go back and watch our first, when we started this deep dive, in the original, we do mention that. We're not, it's definitely not lost on us that he was always a pedophile, but you change the wording of it. And in this movie, obviously, they lean into the pedophile part of it. But it's actually, they don't lean into it as much as I remember it being. I remember them beating you over the head with it, but not quite.
I've never seen, I will say, like, because there's the imageries of this is all like trigger warning topic for like, SA, like abuse, but it was like child abuse, especially like the girls in these like communion dresses jump roping, but you're like, well, these are just kids he stalked and like hunted. And then in like Freddy vs. Jason, it gets a little more like indicate something. And then this one, she's in a full dress and he is like, you're my favorite. He doesn't say anything, but she is just like, and now you kind of get her repression, her darkness. It's not even just her being emo. It's just like, she's moody. There's a reason for this. And your mom wasn't even like, doesn't address this to her and like builds on this. And it's awful. It's like so bad. And it's like not even in the boiler room is always a weird thing. Because at least in this one, there is a boiler room and it is in a specific school. So that is always not haunting. I was just like, well, at least you did it. Like we went in, and then people didn't like that. I remember people didn't like that. We didn't like that. It was.
We don't like the preschool thing, the whole thing, the way he talks to Nancy when she's in the dress again, he even make comments like that was like always his favorite and stuff. Like she was always the favorite. He liked it. And so obviously he's telling you straight out what was happening here. And there's a one point where I know in Freddy vs. Jason he licks the picture, but
it's
well, that's what I'm saying. Freddy vs. Jason started to allude to that a little bit, but didn't fully go in. This movie goes full in. Hey, just in case you didn't get it, he's a fucking.
Here we're nailing, and either people didn't like it, or we didn't want that. And
that's the thing with Slasher Friends. What we're saying was like, I think what we've called. I think we all are kind of agree now is this is what they thought the fan base wanted, and it really wasn't. Like we actually were kind of cool with the pop culture Freddy, like Pop Freddy in a way, or even 3 is kind of where I think 3 into 4 where he straddles that line perfectly.
Even the TV series, which like sometimes is so dumb, so bad. It is kind of funny because my sister was like, "Did you watch the high school reunion episode?" I was like, "What does that mean?" And it's the one where he just like attacks his old prom date who like made fun of him in high school. And we were like, "Oh, I like this because it's about adults. It's more adult. It's like nothing to do with kids, and it's just like him attacking people or cops or like whatever figure, anyone he wants to haunt, or anyone in Springwood." But I don't dig this.
And I'll actually say I'm gonna be a lone defender of them veering into the pedophile thing, because I think, as I said in the first episode of this deep dive, Freddy being a dream creature is really supposed to capture the fears of a society, right? In the 80s, we were afraid of bad parenting. We were afraid of the stranger coming to kill us. We didn't do anything, and all of a sudden we're being murdered. And I think, as in the 2000s, it's more about protecting kids, right? There's a big amping. Like no one talked about pedophilia in the 80s like that, or maybe it was burgeoning. Now it's very, very prevalent, and it's a big fear. So I think leaning into that is interesting, because that's this movie trying to conceptually do what the first one does. And I think, again, that the big problem with this movie is it gave us the beat for beat remake instead of trying to reconceptualize things. Because I think if this movie feels like I'm watching the first one, but it's off and wrong somehow. Like when you're listening to a song on a slower speed, but just a slightly slower speed that it's hard to pick up, but you feel uneasy. That's what this movie is. And if it just went and told its own story and reconceptualized things, and it's like, okay, now instead of being a dream creature, he comes in your dreams and he's a manifestation of your trauma. And now we're looking at pedophilia of trusted officials, because he's a trusted official in this. He's the gardener, but Connie Britton says you kids were his life. And she doesn't say that in like he loved touching you so much. She says that he was dedicated to that school. So I think it's interesting to tackle those themes, but not when you're trying to give us a remake of a beloved movie so fucking close to the original.
And also it's 2010. We have to be edgy a little bit too. So like, there's no time for characters. Give me 2 characters, 3 characters. I don't know. Like we have no time. It's under 2 hours. How long is this movie? An hour and a half?
So about an hour. Yeah, I think
135.
Yeah.
Also, the Wes Craven first movie we talked about, like they talked about that. It was like that movie is so gritty. And that remake again not fixes it. I like that remake a lot though. I think that's like it talks about like the parents and how the parents become vigilantes. Very interesting that's what the movie's about. That first House on the Left is about parents kind of taking revenge for their own kids. And then Elm Street was about, we did it. There'll be no repercussions. We swear to you. And then.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's an awesome connection.
The episode. Yeah. The high school reunion episode. It's my party. Yeah. That I feel into.
Yeah, I don't know. Jason, we were also, I know when you were right too, we were talking about like we like the micro nap theory and stuff, but we saw on one hand when it was done really cool and when it was done not so well, like in the pharmacy is my favorite scene in this movie where that looks awesome and I think it's a really cool concept. But on the other hand, I'm not buying Quentin falling asleep while he's in the middle of swimming.
Agreed. I think
just no.
The micronap theory actually adds to the lore, and I think it can, if you apply that, it can retroactively make some of the questionable dreams, though.
Yes,
not the workout dream, Ed.
The workout dream. No, because
no,
she's there. You're not there lifting, and then all of a sudden you fall asleep in the middle. Like that's just it's not how it's working. Or just show us how she fell asleep before that whole thing started.
Like she took a swig of water and was like, "I'm just going to lay down."
Give us something. But having said that, I think that I think falling asleep while swimming is tantamount to falling asleep while working out. Like, how do you biologically you can't unless your body's about to shut down, because we know intrinsically in our brains that if we fall asleep in water, we fucking die.
Yes, and I just can't. I'm just not buying anyone doing a physical activity and falling asleep in the middle of the physical activity. I'm just no. Sorry.
No.
It's not working for me at all. And hey, I'm not playing favorites here. I love Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and I dinged it. I dinged that thing quickly, but moved on. No, I'm not gonna like highlight it in this. But I thought the micro nap thing was pretty cool, and that's again that scene was the coolest thing I think in the whole movie for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the micro naps is a super cool idea. And I actually do really like I agree with you. I really like that pharmacy scene because it's one of those things where like, and again, this is kind of what I was talking about too with when she falls asleep with the glove. Even though I don't love that homage, like I didn't need the glove, but the idea of when is she asleep and when is she not, right? And that's this. Like you think she's awake and then she isn't, but she is, and then she isn't. And I think that is super interesting, and the micronap really makes us keep on our feet. Like, okay, so they could be asleep at any point, which is not something we really had in the previous ones.
I mean, I guess the original, in some ways, does it a little bit, but not to the extent of this. Because, like, because like when at the end when Nancy's just like, I take away your power, I don't believe in you, and turns her back on Freddy. Then he just kind of like, and disappears and whatever. But it turns out though, like because of the ending, she was still sleeping. She was wrong. It actually didn't work. But in this, let's I guess we're floating around at the end of the movie anyway. So they pull Freddy out of the dream, of course, because that's what we got in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's what we got in Freddy versus Jason. That's what we got in Listen, half of this franchise, Freddy's dead. Half of the franchise is them
in this movie.
Yes, exactly.
Welcome to my nightmare, bitch. Or like, what was that line? I was like, that's a Freddy versus Jason line. This is 2010, and 2004 was 2 years ago. I was so angry.
Hey, listen, they were
like 3 wins. We were like, that was a Freddy versus Jason. They were
cribbing from all of it, but. They pull him out of the dream. They legit cut his fucking head off with the machete again, which we've seen, in another movie not long ago. But he's like, but if that's supposed to be like dead, and then he inexplicably comes back again, it's just.
It doesn't make any sense because the ending, that end isn't set up in a dreamlike quality like in the original. In the original, I buy it's a dream. In this, I don't. The only thing that makes it dreamlike, but
that whole first ending with the way he dies is still like the mom. He gets the mom, and the mom goes in the bed. So much bed like images in that first movie were beautiful. Honestly, God, that's so fascinating, guys. I don't want another beheading. That's so dumb.
Well,
the only thing that points that it might be a dream, but they don't lean into it enough for me to think that it was anything but just sort of not noticing. When they cut his hand off and there's no blood and he kind of just looks over and goes, "What was that?" It's like, no, this is Freddy outside the dream. That should hurt. The dude just lost his hand.
Yeah, there should be blood everywhere. There should be yada yada.
Why not?
Yeah. By the way, another we haven't even mentioned, because I know we usually start off with our talking about Freddy thing, is the look of Freddy in this movie.
Oh, he looks terrible. He looks
I think they're going for the actual burn victim, but
no, that's what I was going to say. He looks like a burn victim. Freddy always looked like Robert Englund in prosthetics to me in the most delightful of ways. Like, I never thought of Freddy as a real burn victim until this. And I think it's uncanny valley stuff.
It's the nose. It's the nose that ruins it for me, especially when you watch like documentaries and they say we gave him more of a witch nose, or like that nose is so special. Like, it's a great nose. But it's like it adds, and I was like, when it's a stub, not bad. More skeleton, I guess. I'll have thoughts on this later in my life, and when at the end of our podcast. But I go, that ruins it for me. It's not. His voice is gorgeous. I love Jackie O'Leary's voice. I love his. I like his acting when he's like not and Freddy. Yeah, I don't like any of it though. It's too CGI. Just too CGI.
Well, I also think that Jackie. I think he's, and I know Robert Englund's not like a large, imposing person. I don't think you need Freddy to be large and imposing.
No, he's not. He's like,
but I feel like he's almost like really too small, almost. And the glove is so huge.
That might be a problem.
It's almost like a child who is cosplaying as Freddy in a weird way. I don't know. Is it maybe? I don't know. I saw that and I'm just kind of like, what is off about him? And I'm like, he's just really small. He got this big ass glove. The burn victim stuff.
That's a thing. That's when you look at a person, you go, how tall are you? What do you go like? What are you like 6'2"? And they're like, well, I'm like 5'7", but their limbs are nice and long, especially like women. And you're like long legs, but they're just like, you're not like, our torsos are like, your torso is shorter, and you're like, how tall are you? And you're like 6'2". Like, you are? All right, I guess. I did so fast. I was like, Robert Englund's not a tall man. No, but it's also stature. He acts again. This is the guy who was like, how do I make myself look like all swagger? So Jimmy Cagney, I'll give my glove is heavy. So it's like, it's a gun. I'm a gunslinger a little bit too. And I walk. I'm like, that man was a theater actor. Jackie O'Leary got an Oscar nomination. Sure. But you can't. Where's your physicality?
So I wasn't going crazy. Jackie Hurley is 5'5" and Robert Englund's 5'10".
Wow. Okay, that is a big difference.
Actor could be like 6 feet. I swear to God, like
But
yeah,
was a stage actor.
No, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's their physical size. I think it's the way they approach the character. I think if Robert Englund was 5'5" and Jackie O'Hurley was 5'10", we'd be having the same conversation with a bit more surprise, because Jackie O'Hurley is like, you know what I did? I've come for you. He's playing it in such a tamped down manner. Yeah. Whereas Englund, as you said, Jenny, he's like, oh, I'm not playing a serial killer. I'm playing a fucking gunslinger. I'm playing
I'm Richard the Third. He goes, I'm Richard the Third, Your Honor.
Yeah. It's the way they approach the character. Like, Englund very clearly approached Freddy never as a child murderer so much as what happens after. I am Freddy Krueger. What happens after, I'm a larger than life creature, a gunslinger, I throw out quips or whatever. Jackie O'Hurley is approaching this from what would this guy be like before he was murdered, and how would that go after? And it's a different choice. And the thing is, interesting character study for a character named Teddy Fruger. But when we come to a movie about Freddy Krueger, we have certain expectations. And this is just so, I don't think it's a bad portrayal, but it's such a diminutive, withdrawn portrayal that he literally looks smaller and takes up less in our mind, space in our mind.
Show him.
And
we never want to show him.
It changes.
Yeah. Eventually, again, like you get so good, you get so like lovable that we're like, let's show more of his face, more of his face, more of your body, more of you, Robert Englund. You're the lead now. Sorry, everyone else he's like,
right.
Pay everyone else less. Like this guy, like, we're really hiding him, but why?
Because I think that was their idea of, again, I think they followed their homework assignment that was given to them was, let's take it back to your original formula. Let's take it back to that. And they tried to do that. And this was their interpretation of what the original formula was. And this is what we got. Like, that's why I think it's interesting. Like, the gentleman who was dropping in some comments on YouTube it's an interesting thing. And I think that's the basis of this conversation around this movie is, I think they were trying to give you what they thought the fans wanted. And it turns out ultimately it wasn't. And I don't think that the fans per se really knew this.
No.
Right? Because when I heard the concept of, oh, we're going to take it back to formula basically and give you darker, evil, less quippy Freddy, I was like, oh, okay. And I saw the trailers. I'm like, all right, that's an interesting idea. Right? Like, okay, I can get on board with that. And then after seeing it and walking away, I'm like, no, thanks. I'll give me quippy Freddy. No, yeah, I need that. That's really what I wanted.
No, thank you.
I know that, but thank you for showing me what I actually wanted. Yes. Thank you for playing, but no.
You knew why.
Yes, exactly.
That being said, can I just say, if we could have done this again or today and made this like social media based, whatever, can I just say who I would have? Maybe we do this again with a Freddy Krueger, like just try to replace Robert Englund. Like only thing,
Jenny, that is a great transition job by you.
I don't know. I don't know. As like at the end of the day,
because we were going to take it there.
Can I just like drop it in and then we'll see what happens? Because it's easy. This to me is easy. I want baby boy from Fallout. I want
Walter Goggins.
Yeah, I want Walter Goggins. I want him, but like also because look at him.
Well, we saw him as the ghoul. Did you saw him in Fallout as the ghoul? That's why I think it's in your head. That's why I think you got the idea from.
I know, but also that man is. I watched Justified. I watched like all of his like stuff. I plan to watch White Lotus. I watched like Righteous Gemstones, but
you watched Crow Salvation because he's in that.
What was it?
He's also in the third Crow movie for some bizarre reason.
Is he?
Yes, those Crow sequels, the direct-to-video ones, have bizarre casting.
He's in the third Crow movie. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
It was also in a really great The Apostle with Robert Duvall. But I was like, I want Walter Goggins, because but I think he's dark. He is more slight. He's more. I think he get more in your head. You'd give it a go and you'd crush it. I'm sure. He'd be game.
I gotta be honest. He was not on my radar for this.
He looks. The ghoul is very Freddy-esque kind of.
Yeah, that's why I can kind of, now that I have a visual in my head of it, I can see that. Jason, I think you wanted to pose the question, right? I guess it's tying into this was, do we need another Elm Street remake?
Yeah. And all right, I'm going to say this, and this will also answer Ginny's question of who I think should play Freddy. And the thing is, no one. I don't think we need another one of these. And it's not that I don't love the franchise. It's just I really feel that if you try to tell a story too far away from the original, it's going to piss off enough of the fan base and fail. But clearly when you try to keep to the original, you piss off the fan base and fail.
Yeah.
And I really do feel that what makes A Nightmare on Elm Street so special, right, as a franchise, is it's Robert Englund. Like, this was a fine movie. Outside of a Freddy movie, this was a fine movie. Jackie O'Hurley ain't ever starting a fucking franchise. And that's not, look, neither am I. That's not an insult, right? But because he doesn't have it. Robert Englund had it. Now, if you put a gun to my head and said, we are recasting, choose someone.
No.
I'm going to say this. Someone I don't know, an unknown, a theater actor, someone fucking hungry like Robert Englund was, someone who's versatile, someone who could do what Robert Englund did, but not give us a Robert Englund impression. Give us a fresh take on a character that we love. Now, and I say a theater actor because, you know, Jackie O'Hurley is a really good film actor. I like him a lot. His Rorschach is fantastic. I think this is abysmal. Like, I hate his characterization of Freddy. It's boring. I hate it. Because Freddy is this heightened creature. And I think you really do need a theater actor to bring this gravitas, right? Like, imagine like a Victor Garber before anyone knew who he was. Like, bringing that kind of gravitas and that kind of like prestige and talent. So if you got to remake it, go unknown. Don't just fucking tap someone because they have a name. Like, let someone build this character again.
And Ginny, kudos to you, because I can definitely see the Walter Goggins thing now, and I didn't really know who. I can see it, and I know why.
He's very lovable, though. He's a lovable person.
Well, yeah, and I also think it's because of the visual with Fallout. It's helping me picture him as giving this a shot. But I do agree with Jason, though, on one hand, and the other hand, I don't. On one hand, I agree that it probably should be an unknown because it won't detract from who. And Walter Goggins isn't like a huge A-list, so I think he would be a good fit. So I think it is somewhere probably in the middle with you guys. But to answer the question of does A Nightmare on Elm Street need another remake? I mean, we're 15 years removed from this one, which is bizarre to say out loud because it does not seem like it was 15 years ago, and now time is flying.
2 years ago. This has been 2 years.
This was. I
was like, when was 2009? I got 2 years ago.
This was over the summer, right after we saw The Crow, and no, but I do think that because the thing is, I think number one, New Line's not going to sit on this forever, right? This is they've gotten past their we need to grow up phase. We need to move on from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And now they try to bring him back because Robert Shea is a producer on this.
Lord of the Rings is over. What do we have now? Mortal Kombat. Yeah. We got Mortal Kombat. We still got Mortal Kombat.
I guess, but like, you know, like I think they need to. I think the number one, they'll never give it up, right? And maybe if they did a co-production with Blumhouse, because I do think Blumhouse would do a phenomenal job with this. But New Line should know how to do Nightmare on Elm. I mean, they've done it before.
I thought you were going to say
should be able to do it again. What was that?
I thought you said New Line should know better. You're like, New Line should know better.
well, you want to know something regarding this movie? New Line should know better. New Line should know, like, dude, you're the house that Freddy built. Guess what? We're going to remind you of that. You did it before. Do it again, but like, you do need to change it up a little bit, and not like in the 22 Jump Street. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's great. Where he's just like, you remember what you guys did in the first movie? Just do it again. Nothing different. Do it again. That's it. No, don't do that. But I do think that you would need to go with a charismatic Freddy who's got gravitas, who can bring it to the screen. Like all the things we were saying. Like you need to go back to the fun but scary, and I think at the encapsulation, the movie I would say, hey, here's your homework to study or your reference point is Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That's actually the one I think that you would nail it.
That's peak Freddy.
That's peak Freddy, or even if you want to say Dream Master, in between those two is where I think that is peak Freddy to what he's known as and go with it. And if you want to do what the 2009 Friday the 13th did, if you want to give us a greatest hits of kills, maybe not. Like, I don't know. You can kind of do that. You can
give the greatest hits of kills. Just watch the end of Freddy's Dead. The best
you
part.
Could, but Ginny, the thing is this is that there are a lot of the general public is not going to go back and rewatch these old movies after a while. Like they need something current. They need something that looks new and looks fresh.
You just something to bring them back. I think, like, you know, or to you need like a.
Yeah, it's not going to be Robert Englund. He's literally himself said no. It's never. Dude is he's old enough now. He was old when he did. Yeah, he can't do it again. So if you're going to do it again, you're going to have to find this guy, and you're going to have to find a new vision. And I dropped to Jason yesterday, like, James Wan would be the guy who I would be like, maybe you can go and like do a Freddy movie. You should direct a Freddy movie.
The elevated horror thing is so weird now because I was like, I do just want like, who is charismatic and funny? Anybody, like a good, like a Scream. All of Scream took over. I was like, I want someone who's just like a goofy monster in a way that's just running amok and making clips like Chucky. We don't have Chucky anymore. We have Chucky, but you know, it's like Brad Dourif and Robert Englund. If they ever pass, I'll be so sad. Like that.
Well, they tried Child's Play. They did try it and changed it up, and it failed miserably.
That was bad. That's also a bad remake. But that TV show is gold. Mwah, that TV show. Love it.
Oh, I agree with you, by the way. And I didn't finish the last season yet. I have a few episodes left.
I didn't either. Yeah, we're behind.
Yeah, I will catch up on it one day. But yeah, but Jason, you're right though. If you would have told me, yeah, Mark Hamill is going to be the new voice of Chucky, I'd be like, oh, it's fucking Mark Hamill. Of course, I'm not going to say no to this.
What a waste.
No, but like the story just didn't work with it. They tried to change things up too far from it. So it's going to happen. We're going to get a Nightmare on Elm Street again. Like, you guys just need to understand it's going to happen again. There's no way they're not.
Of course it is.
I don't know.
That doesn't mean I want it to happen.
Well,
but of course
2010, right, was 7 years after Freddy versus Jason.
Yes.
Right? Which I didn't even realize they were that close together. And I guess, you know, maybe, but now we're 15 years off the failed one. We're 22 years since the last successful one.
But like here's my issue though, right? I know it is, but here's my big concern. Do you know what they weren't trying to do when they made Nightmare on Elm Street? Make a Freddy movie. You know what I mean? And like, and you can argue that for the second and the third. The fourth, they are trying to make a Freddy movie, but it's the first time they're doing it, and they hit the fucking beats perfectly. And then it all goes downhill after that. And you can't count New Nightmare in that, and you can't count Freddy versus Jason, because that is something, those are different animals. And so that's my concern. When you try to make a Freddy movie, you're not trying to make a good movie.
Rennie Harlan is still alive. He should direct the fucking reboot.
All right, yes, but only.
What the fuck was I thinking? That's who should be directing the reboot.
But I want a Freddy. I want fun.
Only if he gets Ed O'Neill to come in and do some booty time.
Oh, Rennie Harlan, Jenny, we know he's going to give you. Come on, he.
No, I love Mindhunters is one of my favorite movies. I love Rennie Harlan.
Never that's what I'm saying.
Mindhunters.
No,
have you all seen Mindhunters?
I did not, but he's too busy doing his fucking. He's doing a remake with his Strangers bullshit.
Oh right, right.
Yeah, he's too busy with that because, you know, he has a built-in trilogy already, so you know he has to.
But I go Freddy movie. I think it's, but isn't that a testament, like it speaks to the first movie where it's perfect horror movie. It's like it's subtle. It's a metaphor. It's gorgeous. It's practical effects, and it's like Wes Craven's like breakthrough. And you try to remake that one and not bring any of the elements of the fun or what we like. Or we all love that first one, but it was like, what is beloved about? What did you grow to love? You know, like
here's the thing. What I'm going to say is
in terms of Freddy, especially
if they have to remake this franchise, start with Dream Master. Or Dream
Not
Warriors.
three.
Start with
Not
Dream
Warriors. The
Like,
Warriors.
no, that's what I meant. I misspoke.
Warriors.
Dream
Warriors.
Warriors.
Right? Yeah.
Start with Dream. I misspoke. Start with Dream Warriors. Fucking give us a strong, interesting cast of teenagers. Have them be dealing with problems that kids deal with today. Don't try to give us 80s problems. They're not the same fucking problems anymore. Try to update it in that way, and then make it a fucking a teen movie of these kids coming and becoming the Dream Warriors and getting
youths. I know nothing about our youth
Freddy and
currently.
picked
I'm
off
I'll
and fighting,
find out.
and make Freddy
Youths.
someone like interesting.
Yeah,
That's how you do it if you're gonna do it.
Yeah, I think they definitely could have. Yeah, I think giving the kids something to fight back with, like the Dream Warriors had, I think is kind of an interesting concept.
That's where everyone loves it. That's where everyone falls in love with the series, I think. Especially.
Right. Yeah.
We love Nancy, but we love when we all team up and become a team.
Yeah.
And again, it reflects
characters.
It reflects today's societal thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm,
like back in the 80s, we were okay. We don't talk about things, and we're disparate, and we're scared. And then why 3 resonates so much is because it does bring these kids together, and it's about bringing people. Like in the 80s, kids had no voices. My stepfather used to tell me all the time, children should be seen and not heard. Shut the fuck up. All right. So in the 80s, people, younger kids didn't have a voice, and that was part of the fear. Now kids do have a bit of a voice, do have more of a voice. So alter it, right? Like, what are the issues today that you can bring in? And I think part of that is part of the boon is, well, the whatever the issue is, the answer is teaming up and getting together and fighting it as a team. I don't know. I think that's the best way it works. And you still keep Freddy a fucking equipping bastard.
Kids have insecurities. It's like insecurities.
James bonds him up. I don't care.
Make like, and there's a bigger, fear. Again, 80s.
Yeah.
But are we not a little bit in the 80s still in a way?
Right.
Sure. Aren't we retroing the 90s now? Is that what's happening now? I've seen the fashion is turning to.
It sure is. It is baggy sweatshirts.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I love because I'm a Christian girl. I just want to wear big baggy sweatshirts.
Guys, are we on the precipice of it being the 90s again? Are the 90s back? Because God, I've been waiting for this for a long time.
It's a weird mix. It's a little Lost Boys for the guys, and then I think it's like baggy, which I don't like, but it's like baggy clothes for the girls and sweats, comfy, and crop tops.
Oh, everyone's gonna be comfortable now. So, do we want to do rankings, or do you want to? We got anything else with the
rankings? I can do rankings. I think I am settled.
Are we ready? We're ready to actually. This is it. We're closing.
I think I need I have them marked out, but I just go.
Are we including this movie we just covered?
I think we have to cover do we have to include everything in the franchise? This movie to me is in the franchise.
Okay. You said franchise.
Franchise.
Series or franchise? This is the franchise. All right.
This one's in it. So unless you had it, I mean, who wants to?
Where do I put Freddy's Nightmares?
All right. Oh, Freddy's Nightmares. Well, I mean,
that's in a subcategory.
Yeah, I think that's all that lasts. I'll start off. Who knows when my internet will go out again? All right. So I don't think anyone's surprised by this, but my top is the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
I think that is not just a great Freddy movie; it's a great movie. Technically, you could study. Really did knew my internet was going to go out. Damn it! And really created something.
You're battling through. You're fighting through them.
I'm fighting through it. That clearly resonated with people, and that can't be ignored. Very close second is 3. Dream Warriors fucking rocks. Dream Warriors is the best Freddy movie. I think out of these movies, Nightmare on Elm Street is the best movie. Dream Warrior is the best Freddy movie because it starts to build that lore. Everything that made me want to get into this franchise as a scared kid comes from this movie. So that to be my second, but it's close. Like they're neck and neck. Like I think they're tied for me, but I have to. If I have to boon one or the other, it's the better movie over the better franchise movie. Yeah. Then there's 4, because that's a fun movie. That's a Freddy movie. That's what everyone after 3 came to the fucking theater to see. And Freddy, he's not a cartoon character, but he's also starting to become the fun anti-hero, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I hate where that goes, but I think it works in this movie. Then I got Freddy versus Jason. Fan service the movie. I was a fan. It did the service. I loved it. Then I had New Nightmare. I know a lot of people don't like this movie. I hold this movie in high regard. I think it's super interesting, and I contend that without New Nightmare, if Wes Craven never makes New Nightmare, we never get Scream.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think what he's doing in this movie is very, very interesting. Then he gets to expand on it more in Scream. And I think it's a lot of reason people didn't like it is because, yeah, there's some wonky bits. We talked about it. But I think it's also a bit more cerebral than people were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got 2. What can I say? I love a guy in S&M gear. 2's an outlier. It's a weirdo. Like, it couldn't be too high on the list just because it is such a wonky, weird fucking movie, but it could not be too low for the same reason. Like, it's just it's an anomaly.
It's a strange movie.
It's just such a strange movie. And if anyone has slept on that, go back and watch it. It's crazy. All right. Okay. Then, and now we're just getting into my own personal nostalgia. Freddy's Dead. That's a shitty movie. It's fucking awful.
Yeah, sure.
It is the first one of the franchise I ever saw. And it's got a nostalgia factor for me. Then I'm going to put this one. I think technically it's a better movie than some of the movies I put ahead of it. But not enough. And then I'm going to put 5 because 5 is fun and stupid. Like,
no, I know. I don't feel
really
about 5.
stupid.
Jesus.
Sorry, Ginny.
That was me
on my list.
I want all the 80s movies lumped together in a big pile.
I'm cringing for Ginny right there because I know
if I could choose
like,
4, 5, 3, I want them all together. It doesn't matter. 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's in the 80s, it's good to me. It's solid.
All right, so that's wow, you did it.
You did it.
You put 2010 above one of the originals. I wasn't sure if you were going to do it.
That's offensive to me. And this is where we set. This is where we. What's it called? I break away from the union or whatever. I'm gonna. What's the term?
Say that it's again. It would be 5.
Yeah.
But I do think that technically this is a better movie. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Jenny, me or you? Who wants to go first?
I am pretty solid. I want to keep track though, just so I don't have. Okay. It's my first is 4, and I'm going to be loyal to my favorite. It's a comfort movie. It moves. I do. I love 4. I can sing all the songs in the soundtrack. I can quote this movie. I fell asleep to this movie. I love the women in this movie. I love the friendships in this movie. I love the guys in this movie. You have Dan, and you can choose. And if not Dan,
Major League
Rick or Dan, you choose. You got the gothic boyfriend. You got the junk. Boom, perfect. It was a perfect movie, and it also eased me into going into part 2 to 4. But 4, I connected. I was like, well, it's just very 80s and kind of nice. It wasn't what I was expecting an Elm Street movie to be. and then I kind of got a feel for like the 80s series. So 3, I hadn't seen 3 yet. Eventually I grew up, like, you know, and that was scarier than 4. But so 4 is my number 1, and then my number, so Dream Master 4 is my first. Then the first one is my second, because brilliant, scary, again, rewatchable. I quote it, I love it, watch it every year. I watch 4 every year. But again, it's like this is my personal like list.
Of course, it's your list.
I know 3 is going to be Dream Warriors, again, for the same reason of just like, but I didn't see that initially, and then you're just like, oh, that's great, but I don't. Some of the lore is all built. It's Hypnosil. It's the hospital. Nancy's back. I do love it. And I also love Patricia Arquette. And again, we talked about how I did the coffee beans and Diet Coke when I was a kid, the coffee crystals. I think I have to do New Nightmare is my 4, because we talked about how much I love Dream Child as like a mother, and like as in pregnancy, or just like that relationship. New Nightmare is, I do watch that every year, and I think it hits harder every time I see it. It's the meta one. It's the build up to Scream. It's brilliant. And I love it. And I quote it. We had that stuffed animal. We had the dinosaur stuffed animal that he has in that movie. It was like, and it's scary, and it gets scary at the end. And I watched on VHS, and I fell asleep to that movie. So I've always watched like the first at least 20 minutes of that movie before I fell asleep when I was like 14. And after that, that's my 4. My 4 was New Nightmare. 5 is Freddy vs. Jason. At the end of the day, because I do watch that every year. I quote that with my friends. It's my fun party movie. So if someone's like, hey, we want a horror movie to put on, I'm like, let's all watch Freddy vs. Jason. You're all going to have a good time. And I remember, again, I feel like I watched a little bit of Freddy versus Jason. Like, you know, it was 2003, just before we had a bat mitzvah party, and we watched 4 and 2. But my cousins were like, we'll take you to see it. Let's go. Let's just go. And you're like 13. You're like, okay, but you'll take us, right? And we were like nervous. We were scared, and we never did it. We had to rent it like, a year later. But that was like that. It was like we were so curious about it. So that hype was so good. So that's 5. Then I say, this is rough. It's rough for me. I think I'm going to say Freddy's Dead is my 6. It's going to go Freddy's Dead, then 2, wow, then 5, then the remake. And I just think, because I really did fall asleep a lot too. We're like, I don't know. It's the soundtrack to Freddy's Dead, I think, that does it for me.
It has a good soundtrack.
It has a great soundtrack, because the Goo Goo Doll song really kills it for me. It's a dumb movie. I think it's a problem. I think I really should tie it with 5, but the soundtrack is just like, I've been where a river ran, I'm drowning in us on the sea. It's so good. Yeah, but then, so I think that's my list. I love 2. I do love 2, but I am
shocked you didn't have Dream Child higher, because of how much through this whole thing you have talked up. But you know it. You know it to be true. Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Once all of my friends die, when my friends die, I'm out, man. I don't want to live anymore. When Greta goes, and we should have spent more time with Greta and her comic book boyfriend, like pining over her. What a dynamic. We don't see those dynamics anywhere anymore. Like, I just have to fight for what I love.
I feel so vindicated now. Because you even know it. Because you know it in your heart.
I know.
You know that it's...
But also, I'm like, I'm mature. It's like, but as a mother, it's like, do you have your toddler or your pregnancy? Which is, this series is so special, guys.
I'm with you.
We were tackling themes.
I'm with you 100%.
I love it.
Like I told you, I literally grew up with this franchise. So I will start at the top. And it's interesting that our lists are different. I have Dream Warriors as number 1.
That's healthy. That's normal. That should be happening.
And I do agree with Jason though. One Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare and Dream Warriors are like 1 and 1A though. I will completely admit that. You can flip it whenever you want, but I'm gonna go with Dream Warriors because I do think it is like the Freddy movie. Right? It's the most rewatchable one. I've seen it probably as much as I've seen one at this point. Like that's the one. That's the quintessential Freddy movie. So I will start. Number 1 is Dream Warriors. Number 2 I have as the original Nightmare on Elm Street. 3 I have Dream Master. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 is definitely, and we went over it. I have a personal connection with it and stuff like that. So it may or may not be like the last movie I saw with my mom and stuff. So I will admit that there's definitely a sentimental thing to it. But even rewatching as an adult, I'm like, yeah, it's good. It did validate it. I felt validated. Yeah, I validated because it wasn't like, when I just rewatched Spawn, I'm like, the fuck was 17-year-old Ed thinking, you idiot? Like, this is not good, man. Yeah, what's wrong with you? So then I will go. Dream Master is number 4. I mean, sorry, what I have? No, I have it at 3. Right. Number 4, I have Freddy versus Jason.
Good choice, man.
Because I think that what's funny too is that Dream Master and Freddy versus Jason, I think it's basically like, neck and neck. Because they're both really fun movies.
Yeah,
you both get a lot. Like I remember seeing them both in the theater and stuff too, and rewatching them was a blast for both. So, and again, it's also like the whole thing of bringing the franchises together.
I know. It was a big deal.
It was a huge deal.
It was the Super Bowl of the horror genre.
It was, and you were like, "Oh my god, this is actually happening." I still remember just getting in the theater. I'm like, "Oh my god, is this actually happening?" Wow. So, then after that, I will say I have Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Because I will, really good movie. I agree with you guys on the whole thing. Where it's the predecessor to Scream and stuff like that. Like we don't get no Scream, no New Nightmare, no Scream. So I will go with that. Plus, I love the Freddy's look in that movie. Freddy air quotes because we know it's not like him. And it's then. And this is the shocking one, and this would not have been my rankings before this. I have Freddy's Revenge.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah.
It would have, Jenny. You don't understand. For most of my life, it was like this is the fucking worst. I hate this movie. It's so stupid, and it's not a good movie. But
no, it's not good.
I get where they were trying to go with.
I pushed my grandmother down a flight of stairs, and you're like, "What was that line?"
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you grounded, Grady? Pushed my grandmother down the stairs.
And I remember as a kid, it was just like, "That's a weird movie. What the hell was that?" And then as you get older, and you look back, and you're like, "All right, I see that there was." Then you see more of the subcontext and stuff, and themes. You're like, "Okay, there's a lot going on here." Plus, it was an awesome discussion to have about that movie. So there's that. And then after Freddy's Revenge, I will go with Freddy's Dead. And I fully admitted that I liked it more before our rewatch, and now I've rewatched it. I'm like, yeah, this movie sucks. It's a shitty movie. It is. But Robert Englund's still in the movie?
He's a lot of the movie.
He's a lot of the movie. So I will give it, at least I get Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger, and the soundtrack I'll give you was better than I even remember it being. So I will give it that. That's where it gets. Now I'm like nitpicking here to try to like decipher this. And this is the last two is where things get interesting. And I cannot believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to put Dream Child next. And you know how much I hate this movie.
I know, but you would put it before.
I only have it above the remake.
All right.
Because it's at least I get Robert Englund in the movie.
There's some cool practical effects. And Robert Englund, lots of Robert Englund.
Yeah.
You don't like Super Freddy? Super Freddy, come on. Let's think about it. Does the remake have a Super Freddy? I don't think so.
Jenny, do you want me to put it lower?
You want
to drop it? You know how much I hated Super Freddy. You know that thing drove me up the wall. To me, that was that's the actual jumping of the shark right there.
There's no Super Freddy. There's no Super Freddy. There's a baby. There's baby fetus.
It was a weird movie and stuff, but whatever. At least Robert Englund's there.
Yeah.
And I will admit that the remake is dead last, but it's only because it doesn't have Robert Englund. It has a lot of cool themes to it. We just discussed, we rehashed.
This was the movie I feel like you guys were really making me think a lot more about, or maybe I was just younger, or like when I watched it in like Halloween, it was on AMC. I'm like, I really don't want to do this right now, but I feel like I've reassessed a bit more.
Yeah, and I agree. I think we all did this time because I think we all remember hating this movie with like this vitriol, and went back and like, you want to know something? Maybe I'm not going to hate watch this thing, and I'm going to just be like, all right, I get it. I see what you were trying to go for. It didn't work, but you were trying something that was just failed. And we just broke down and detailed exactly what the heck it didn't, why it didn't work. And I think it's fair. But the last two are close, but I will give Robert Englund versus not Robert Englund. That's where I give the nod. So
that's
we got one last question before we actually wrap late here, but how do you feel about Nightmare on Elm Street being redone versus Return of the Living Dead? Oh, well, we talked. Interesting.
Like the 80s one?
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
Or like Dawn of the Dead, because there's like but I mean, that was also, I wish that this Nightmare on Elm Street reboot had been like more like Return of the Living Dead, which is the 80s one where they're like, well, the first movie happened, that Night of the Living Dead happened.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And they're like, I thought it was a movie. They're like, no, it really happened. And this is the 80s one. And he's like, the bodies, and let's release the gas and have an explosion. I wish that's a better or like that lends itself to like a spa, or like I don't know, like a weird reboot, a good reboot.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to like go about it. The inevitable reboot, because I think we both admitted that we know there will be a reboot coming eventually.
But it doesn't have to be a sequel. What's the legacy sequel? A legacy sequel.
So that's interesting you say that, because like Superman Returns, like when they
that's a legacy sequel, right?
Yeah, it is. But the thing was, a lot of people banged on that movie, and I'm pretty sure we did too, because we kind of felt like you were. Well, the thing was, like, I like Brandon Roth as Superman. Not to go totally sidetrack this, I like him. He's not the problem, and I did like Lex Luthor in that movie too, even though I know he's a real villain in real life now. But,
I know.
Yeah, exactly. But his portrayal of Lex Luthor, we'll just go with that. But then it was just things that it was almost like we almost felt like it was being held down because it had to like live. It had to be compared to that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You have to kind of do your own thing or just make it very drastic. Again, it's such a weird, it's like, who's your Freddy? Or is this just like the Wolfman, even the new Wolfman movie, the Invisible Man movie, the reboot is so different. And it touches on like a different theme of like, not trauma, but like, it's not like the werewolf movie. It just differs from like the original, and it's just, you latch onto the name, but that's it. And that's kind of, which I wonder if you could do a Freddy movie like that, where it's like dream vibes, maybe a Freddy character. Maybe he's not named Freddy though. And you still call it Nightmare on Elm Street. That'd be kind of interesting.
Oh, like that, or I'm just like, the thing is too, is that if you do a legacy sequel, then number one, you have to get the canon straight, and you have to acknowledge that all happened.
I know.
Right?
The children, you bring the children in. You get Jacob. You get.
Well, you know where my sequel would be. My sequel is Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and let's fucking go. Let's do this. Which, by the way, I've been toning down on now because I've watched interviews with Bruce Campbell when he's talked about it, and did you ever hear his comments on it?
No.
They're very brief, and that's kind of why, like, he's definitely, him and Sam Raimi were not having it, because apparently New Line called them and were like, oh, we have this idea, and he's like, oh, well, that's so obviously this is where Ash kills these two assholes, right? Because that's it. And they're like, well, not really, and stuff like, well, so you're gonna tone down Ash and make him like not as effective? And they're like, no, and they basically hung up on New Line. And I'm like, I don't know what to think. Like, so the way I took that, I was like, Bruce, like, come on, you're missing the whole point of the fun of this movie.
Oh, see, it's so funny.
That bummed me out.
It's like the hype, but I was like, I remember we all were hyped up on it. I just like, now you realize Freddy versus Jason was like a big Hollywood movie, and then they went on to like then do these like sort of reboots. And I got super into Evil Dead, like a cult fandom. But then you're like, oh, what's Bruce Campbell doing? Like, what's he up to? And you're like, these weird movies. Oh, TV movies. Okay. Then he does Burn Notice, but I'm like, why is he not getting big movies? Because like Hollywood was weird. Awful.
Yeah, and also too, like he just seemed like he was very much more into like the producing part of it too. Like so he would have to be like producer.
His biographies are so good though, where it's just like Hollywood's it's like it's rough. It's so sucky. It's hustle. It's all hustle.
And it just for me, it was just kind of like it was taking some of the fun of like because I just think it would be such a cool, fun movie, and I think he was missing. I don't expect Bruce Campbell to miss the fun of the verbal barbing between Freddy and Ash would be like phenomenal.
Him and Robert Englund not doing a movie together is a crime against humanity.
Right. Like I just
that's a problem.
We
did Wishmaster and Bruce Campbell wasn't there. We get Bruce Campbell and Robert. I don't even care about Freddy versus Ash. I just want them in a movie together to banter.
Yes,
that's all I care about.
So, well, Jason is giving up on his internet. He has been officially defeated by it. So we're gonna Jenny. We're gonna wrap this one up. So that's the end of this season of PCP Deep Dive. We've done our Nightmare on Elm Street. Awesome. Kudos to us. It's been a blast. I've had a fun, Jenny, like always.
Yeah.
And next season, though, and we'll announce when it'll get going. Apparently, season 3, because just like Freddy, like by the end of it, we're not gone yet. We'll already be plotting the comeback.
No,
we're going to be counting down the Mission Impossible franchise. So there's a new one.
So excited!
I love that franchise. It is arguably the best action franchise I think ever.
It's like it's amazing, and geez, I have all of them on Blu-ray. I think we do.
Yeah, it's just so crazy because they're so different at different points, especially the first couple. They're drastically different.
I love all the characters. I love so many characters. That is also a childhood series, and then
series. That is what we're gonna do. We're gonna count it down until the new one, the last final entry into it drops in the theater. We'll have a new
Tom Cruise,
movie.
even after American James Bond. It's perfect.
Exactly. That's what Jason was saying. He was just like, we get to it's a circular thing almost, like where we go ahead and touch back into like a spy franchise again.
And then you do the Fast and the Furious series.
So then we got to do Friday the 13th. No.
We should do a horror one. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. But Jason wanted me to make sure we get that out there. That'll be Mission Impossible. We'll do the math and count down when we'll be able to kick that off. So we can wind it up.
Movie. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm super pumped. So so thanks for joining us. As always, check out PopCulturePros.com because that's what we are also presented by, and on Facebook. Check out the Facebook page, check out YouTube, and check out wherever you found your audio only podcast. And if you're into comic book stuff, check out Granny's Peach Tea. We got an episode out right now. We reviewed Spawn from 1997 along with the season 5 premiere of Harley Quinn. So check us out there, and we'll see you soon.